Welcome to Unfolded Lives, where we bring to life the journeys of those who shaped history. Today we unfold the story of a man who shook an empire, a symbol of power, strategy, and ambition. Julius Caesar. He wasn't just a brilliant general or a gifted politician. He was a storm that swept through the Roman Republic, rewriting its destiny and leaving a legacy that still echoes across the world over 2,000 years later. From a determined boy in the heart of Rome to one of the most iconic figures in all of history, this is a story of brilliance, betrayal, triumph, and the price of power. This is the life of Julius Caesar, told by Unfolded Lives. Julius Caesar was born on July 12th or 13th, 100 BCE, right in the heart of the Roman Republic, Rome itself. His full name? Gaius Julius Caesar. Doesn't quite sound like a name that would shake the world, but how it did. Caesar came from a powerful and noble family, the gens Julia. They believed they were descendants of the gods, specifically Venus, the goddess of love. His dad, also named Gaius Julius Caesar, was respected, but not the most powerful guy in Rome. His mom, Aurelia, was smart, strong, and deeply influential in young Caesar's life. From an early age, Caesar wasn't your average Roman kid. He was sharp, observant, curious, and driven. He soaked up books, mastered language and debate, and quickly became known for his intellect and charm. But remember, Rome wasn't a calm place. Power was everything, and politics could be deadly. When Caesar was just 16, tragedy hit. His father died suddenly. That loss pushed him to grow up fast. But his problems didn't end there. Around that time, a ruthless dictator named Sulla took control of Rome. Sulla viewed Caesar's family as enemies, and just like that, Caesar was marked for death. Most people would have run, but not Caesar. Instead of fleeing, he found a way to survive, bribing the right people, staying just under the radar, and proving he could outwit the deadliest forces in Rome. That was Caesar's first brush with real danger, and it taught him an important lesson. In Rome, survival wasn't about strength alone. You needed brains, guts, and nerve. At 17, Caesar got married. His first wife was Cornelia, daughter of a powerful political figure. Now, don't be fooled. This wasn't just about love. In Rome, marriages were power plays. Every union was a potential alliance. But Sulla, the dictator, hated this match. He ordered Caesar to divorce Cornelia. Again, Caesar said no. And again, it almost cost him his life. Refusing Sulla meant running for his life, living in exile. But this wasn't a defeat. It was a transformation. It made him more cunning, more resilient, more ambitious. After dodging death yet again, he joined the Roman army. And there, he started building his reputation as a warrior. Caesar wasn't just brave, he was fearless. In battle, he showed such boldness and skill that he won medals for courage and gained the admiration of commanders. People started to whisper, "This man could lead Rome." But Caesar was more than a fighter. He was a thinker, a master of strategy with a bigger vision. And soon, fate would test him in one of the wildest ways possible. Picture this: Caesar, still young, on a voyage across the Mediterranean Sea. Suddenly, bam, he's kidnapped. By pirates, real ones. They demanded ransom, a lot of money. But Caesar, he didn't panic. In fact, he laughed. The pirates wanted 20 talents of silver. Caesar scoffed. "You fool," he said, I'm worth at least 50. They were stunned. No one had ever reacted that way. While held captive, Caesar joked with them, gave them orders, acted like he was the boss, not the prisoner, and he didn't forget what they did. As soon as the ransom was paid and he was free, Caesar raised a small army, hunted those pirates down, and executed every one of them. Ruthless? Absolutely. But it sent a message. Julius Caesar is not a man to be crossed. After this wild adventure, he returned to Rome with a new sense of purpose. He knew he couldn't just be a hero on the battlefield. If he wanted real power, he had to get into politics. But Rome was in chaos. Corrupt elites ran the show. They had the money, the military, and the influence. And they didn't want anyone new, like Caesar, rising through the ranks. So Caesar got smart. He knew that the way to power in Rome wasn't just through politics. It was through the people. He started hosting extravagant public events, gladiator fights, festivals, games. He spent fortunes, often borrowed from wealthy allies, to entertain and impress. And it worked. The people loved him. He became a celebrity, a hero. But Caesar didn't stop at popularity. He aimed higher. He launched his political career as a lawyer, and he crushed it. His speeches were powerful, logical, emotional, and captivating. He won case after case. Soon he climbed the political ladder, first as a military tribune, then a quaestor, like a financial officer, and eventually a senator. One step at a time, he was getting closer to the top. Still, the elites weren't happy. Caesar was gaining too much attention. He was too popular, too unpredictable, too dangerous. Then, tragedy struck again. His wife Cornelia died. It was a deep, personal loss for him. But in Roman society, even marriage was political. Soon, he married Pompeia, from a highly influential family. But that marriage ended in scandal. Pompeia was accused of having an affair. Though it wasn't proven, Caesar divorced her anyway, saying, "My wife must be above suspicion." It was clear. His public image mattered more than personal pain. Next, Caesar was sent to Spain as a governor, and that too changed everything. While in Spain, he saw a statue of Alexander the Great. Looking at it, he realized something. Alexander had conquered half the known world by Caesar's age. And Caesar? He hadn't done anything nearly as great. That moment lit a fire in him. From then on, he swore he would become the most powerful man in the world. In Spain, he raised his own army, led victorious battles, and earned the fierce loyalty of his soldiers. By the time he returned to Rome, people didn't just see him as a rising star. They saw him as a force to be reckoned with. But he wasn't done yet. Caesar knew he needed stronger allies. He didn't have the most money or the biggest army. So he struck a secret deal with two of Rome's most powerful men, Pompey the Great, an elite general, adored by soldiers but slipping in influence, and Crassus, the richest man in Rome. Together, they formed a secret alliance, the First Triumvirate. And with their support, Caesar rose even higher, elected as consul, one of the top positions in Roman government. But as always, he wanted more. He took control of Gaul, modern-day France, Belgium, and parts of Germany. It was a brutal place, filled with fierce warrior tribes. No Roman had ever conquered it completely. But Caesar saw that as his opportunity. For the next 8 years, he led one of the bloodiest campaigns in Roman history. So, back to Gaul. Julius Caesar had taken on the massive challenge of conquering this untamed region, an area full of powerful tribes who didn't exactly welcome Rome with open arms. But for Caesar, this was the chance to make history. And wow, did he! For 8 relentless years, Caesar led his legions through rugged terrain, dangerous ambushes, and brutal battles. The tribes of Gaul were fierce warriors, but Caesar was on another level. He wasn't just fighting, he was strategizing, outsmarting, outmaneuvering. He built bridges across rivers in record time. He split tribes apart with cunning diplomacy. He tricked enemies into lowering their guard, then struck fast and hard. His tactics were genius level. The crown jewel of his campaign? The Siege of Alesia. Picture this. Caesar surrounds a massive fortified city with tens of thousands of enemy warriors inside. But he doesn't stop there. He builds not one, but 2 walls. One to trap the people inside Alesia, and one to keep reinforcements from getting in. It was a military move so brilliant that historians still study it today. Eventually, the starving tribes inside surrendered, and just like that, Gaul belonged to Rome. That victory changed everything. By the end of it all, Caesar had become one of the most celebrated military leaders in history. His army worshipped him. His name echoed far beyond Rome. He wasn't just successful, he was unstoppable. But back in Rome, trouble was brewing. While Caesar was conquering Gaul, politics at home had shifted. His old ally, Crassus, was dead. And Pompey, the very man who had once supported Caesar, had now turned against him. Worse, the Roman Senate, influenced by Pompey, saw Caesar as a threat. They ordered him to disband his army and return to Rome, not as a general, but as a regular citizen. Caesar knew exactly what that meant. If he returned without his army, he'd be arrested, possibly executed, all his power gone. So, what did he do? He crossed the Rubicon River, the official boundary you weren't supposed to cross with an army. And by doing that, he declared war on Rome itself. That one move, crossing the Rubicon, became a symbol of irreversible decisions, a point of no return. The civil war that followed was bloody and intense. Caesar versus Pompey, the future of Rome on the line. After a series of battles, Pompey fled to Egypt, but even there he wasn't safe. In a stunning twist, Egyptian forces killed Pompey, hoping to gain favor with Caesar. Caesar, upon arriving in Egypt, was shown Pompey's severed head, and while it meant victory, he reportedly wept. Pompey had once been a friend and ally. Now he was a casualty of ambition. But Egypt had something else waiting for Caesar. Cleopatra. She was young, brilliant, magnetic, and in the middle of a power struggle of her own. Caesar saw her potential, and she saw his. What followed was one of the most iconic relationships in history. They became allies, then lovers. Cleopatra wanted power, and Caesar could help her keep it. He, on the other hand, was captivated by her charm and intellect. Their connection was real and political. Eventually, Cleopatra gave birth to Caesar's son, Caesarion. But this new chapter didn't go unnoticed. Back in Rome, people were shocked. Caesar was already married to his third wife, Calpurnia, and now he had a child with a foreign queen, a queen who wasn't Roman. That scandal only fueled Caesar's reputation. Some admired his boldness, others hated it. Still, Caesar didn't slow down. After securing Cleopatra's throne, he returned to Rome, now more powerful than ever. He was adored by the people, feared by the Senate, and celebrated by his army. He didn't walk back into the city quietly either. He entered like a god, wearing a purple robe, riding a golden chariot, leading a grand parade through the city streets. For 40 days, Rome celebrated gladiator games, feasts, wild animal hunts. It was an endless victory lap. And at the center of it all, Julius Caesar. He had finally done it. He wasn't just a consul, not just a general. He was dictator of Rome. Now, that title might sound temporary, but Caesar had something else in mind. He started reshaping Rome from the ground up. Big reforms rolled out one after another: land and money for poor citizens and retired soldiers. A new Julian calendar, the one that modern calendars are still based on today. Expansion of Roman citizenship, making the empire stronger, more unified. Construction of new cities, roads, and government programs. The public loved it. He was fixing things, bringing order, giving people hope. But not everyone was cheering. To the traditional Roman elite, this was terrifying. Caesar was acting less like a Roman leader and more like a king. And in Rome, king was a dirty word. Remember? Rome had abolished its monarchy centuries ago. They hated kings. The Republic was their pride, and yet Caesar wasn't hiding it anymore. He had statues of himself placed in temples, like he was a god. He sat on a golden throne in public ceremonies. He wore royal robes. He even allowed his face to be put on coins, something reserved for gods and kings, not regular politicians. Then came the final straw. At a public festival, his friend Mark Antony offered him a golden crown, not once, but twice. And twice, Caesar refused, but everyone saw through it It was all a performance, a test. Caesar was seeing how people would react. Whispers turned into fear. Fear turned into panic. Senators began to believe that if Caesar wasn't stopped, the Republic would be finished for good. So, a plan was formed. Led by two senators, Brutus and Cassius, a secret conspiracy took shape. They believed they were doing the right thing, that they had to kill Caesar to save Rome. But there was a problem. Caesar was loved by the people, by the military, even by many senators. The conspirators knew they couldn't wait any longer. If they hesitated, Caesar would become too powerful to stop. So they picked a date, March 15th, 44 BCE, the Ides of March. The night before, Caesar's wife had a terrible dream. Seeing her husband's body covered in blood, she begged him not to go to the Senate. Even a fortune teller warned him, "Beware the Ides of March." And for the first time, Caesar hesitated. The man who had faced wars, betrayals, pirates, was uneasy. But pride overpowered doubt. He went anyway. He walked into the Senate, the room filled with his peers. Then chaos. One senator stabbed him, then another, and another. He tried to fight back, but it was no use. Surrounded, helpless. Then he saw Brutus, his friend, his ally. And as Brutus raised his knife, Caesar's last words, "Et tu, Brute? Even you, Brutus?" At that moment he gave up, his heart broken more than his body. He fell to the ground. Julius Caesar, dead, stabbed 23 times by those he once trusted. And yet, that was not the end. So Caesar was gone, murdered not by foreign enemies, but by his own people, his friends, his allies, his Senate. There he lay, in a pool of blood on the floor of the Roman Senate, stabbed 23 times. The man who had conquered Gaul, survived pirates, defeated Pompey, loved Cleopatra, and reshaped Rome, was dead. And yet what came next shocked everyone. You see, the senators who killed him, Brutus, Cassius, and the rest, they thought they were saving Rome, that by killing Caesar, they'd restore the Republic and stop a tyrant from becoming king. But they didn't restore anything. They lit the match for one of the greatest political meltdowns in history. Rome exploded into chaos. Because here's what the conspirators didn't count on: the people, the regular citizens, the army, the poor, the veterans, all of them, they loved Caesar. He'd given them land, jobs, food, hope. He had brought glory to Rome, and now, just like that, he was gone? The crowd was furious. But the real turning point came at Caesar's funeral. His closest friend and most trusted general, Mark Antony, stepped forward. He wasn't just there to grieve, he was there to turn the tide. He lifted Caesar's blood-soaked cloak for the people to see, and then he gave one of the most powerful speeches in Roman history. His voice trembled, but it was fierce. "Look at this blood," he cried. "This was your leader, your protector, your hero. Look what they did to him." And then he read Caesar's will, a will that shocked everyone. Caesar had left land and money, not to the rich, but to the people, to the everyday citizens of Rome. The crowd snapped. Riots broke out. Homes of the conspirators were attacked. Buildings were burned. Brutus, Cassius, and the others had to flee for their lives. They thought they'd killed a man to save a republic, but instead they created a martyr. Rome was now divided, torn between two sides. Side one, the assassins, Brutus, Cassius, and their followers, claiming they were defenders of freedom. Side two, Caesar's loyalists, Mark Antony, and a new player, Octavian. Now, who was Octavian? Just 18 years old. Barely a man. No army, no experience. Nobody took him seriously. But there was one thing, one huge thing, that gave him an edge. He was Caesar's adopted son. In Caesar's will, Octavian was named his legal heir. He even inherited Caesar's name. Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus. At first, people laughed. This kid? Caesar's legacy? But Octavian wasn't playing games. He teamed up with Mark Antony and another powerful figure named Lepidus. Together, they formed the Second Triumvirate, a three-man powerhouse with one goal: revenge. They went after the conspirators with brutal efficiency. Thousands were killed, enemies of Caesar were hunted down, executed. Brutus and Cassius escaped to Greece, but not for long. In 42 BCE, at the Battle of Philippi, it all came to a head. On one side, the liberators, Brutus and Cassius, with a massive army. On the other, Caesar's heirs, Mark Antony and Octavian, leading a Roman force loyal to the fallen leader. It was brutal, bloody, and in the end, Antony and Octavian won. Brutus and Cassius took their own lives. Their revolution had failed, but the fighting wasn't over. With the conspirators gone, the Second Triumvirate started to crumble. Too many egos, too much ambition. Eventually, only two real powers remained: Mark Antony and Octavian. At first, they divided the empire. Octavian took the west, Rome, Italy, Spain, Gaul. Antony took the east, Egypt, Greece, Asia. But the alliance didn't last, because Antony fell for someone. Hard. Cleopatra. Yes, the same Cleopatra who had once loved Caesar. Now she was with Antony. And it wasn't just romance. It was a full-blown political partnership. Antony left his Roman wife, who, by the way, was Octavian's sister. He moved to Egypt, had 3 children with Cleopatra, and started behaving more like an Egyptian pharaoh than a Roman general. That was all Octavian needed. He launched a propaganda war back in Rome. Antony has betrayed us, he cried. He's under the spell of a foreign queen. He wants to make Rome a province of Egypt. And the people believed him. The final battle came in 31 BCE, at the Battle of Actium. Octavian's navy faced off against the combined forces of Antony and Cleopatra. The result? A crushing victory for Octavian. Antony fled. Cleopatra followed. But they knew it was over. Rather than be captured, Antony took his own life. Soon after, Cleopatra did the same, letting a poisonous snake bite her, ending her reign in dramatic fashion. And just like that, the game was over. Octavian had won. In 27 BCE, he took on a new title, Augustus, meaning the Exalted One. He became the first official emperor of Rome. The Roman Republic was gone. In its place, an empire. An empire that would last for 500 years. So what does that mean for Caesar? Well, he didn't live to see it. But make no mistake, this was his legacy. Julius Caesar didn't just fight wars or pass reforms. He changed the world. His name, Caesar, became a title. Future emperors were called Caesars. Even centuries later, rulers like the German Kaiser or Russian Tsar traced their names back to him. His calendar? Still used today. The month of July, named after him. His tactics, studied by generals around the globe. His story, immortalized by writers like Shakespeare, whose play Julius Caesar is still performed around the world. But maybe the most powerful part of his story is the lesson behind it. Julius Caesar teaches us this. Be bold. He crossed the Rubicon and never looked back. Never stopped pushing forward. Even after betrayal and heartbreak, he kept climbing. Leave a legacy, not just with power, but with purpose. Even 2,000 years later, his name lives on. Julius Caesar may have fallen by the hands of those he trusted most, but he didn't die as just a man. He became a legacy. His name lived on in emperors. His calendar marked the world, and his story became legend. He didn't just change Rome. He changed history. Here at Unfolded Lives, we believe that great lives are never just about the past. They are lessons, warnings, and inspirations that continue to shape our world today. If this story moved you, made you think, or helped you learn something new today, do us a favor. Like the video, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. It only takes a second, but it helps us bring more powerful stories like this to life. Thanks for being here. See you in the next story.